here we are at the 8th annual Beyondtv Documentary Film Festival, and I've got Thalia here with me, and we're going to be talking about her activism in the 70s and 80s into the 90s, in fact even to the present day. She's, I suppose you'd be best described as an artist activist.
Yes,
is that right?
Right, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I know when we talked a little earlier, what really interested me in what you were saying was how the media and technology has moved on so much from when you were really active. And so could you tell me a little bit about what medium you used to get your words out and your message?
What we were trying to put a good spin, I suppose you could use spin on in the media, was the Green and Common Peace March. Grew out of a successful campaign to stop nuclear dumping in Wales.
Yes.
And a few of us in that big campaign saw that they wanted to go on and do something else. So a group of women and children marched from Wales to Green and Common.
Where in Wales did they march from?
Oh, from Cardiff to Newbury, yes.
And how long did that take you?
10 days.
10 days.
But now to get onto the media thing.
Yes.
Well, basically, first of all, we were ignored. And that was quite upsetting. Some of the more political people expected to be ignored, but to other young idealistic people, they were deeply shocked by being ignored. So we had a little coverage in the local press, usually about some local person on the march, but we didn't get any national coverage, and this went on for the entire 10 days.
So how many of you were on this march?
36 of us and 6 men.
So that's quite considerable considering you're working for that length of time and hardly any major coverage.
Yes.
So how did you change that?
Well, it didn't really change until we started taking direct action, dramatic direct action.
So what kind of action was that?
Well, cutting the fence, going into the base, blockading the gates. But early on, right early on, I thought, I expected to be ignored by the media because I was pretty politically clued up. And I thought, well, I'm an artist and I've been a teacher. And I thought, well, I can do something about this. I must use my skills to sort of do something different. So how we did it, very different to nowadays. We made banners. I mean, people still make banners, but that's all we had then, really. And we made banners like Women's Struggle Won the Vote, Use It for Disarmament. And that was gold lettering on an old satin sheet with a little apron and dates of when we won the suffrage.
And who worked on these banners with you?
Well, my mother-in-law, who's not remotely interested in any of it, actually disapproves. So it was neighbours, it was friends, it was family. We worked on these banners together.
So you started off just doing a banner and then suddenly you were doing 2, 3, 4 more and more.
Well, it was one a month, more or less, for love rather than money, just to get the message across. I mean, as Remembrance Day came up, we made a banner, Remembrance is not enough. And it had red poppies on, then it had red poppies with C&D centres, and then it had green poppies. So it showed that we remembered, but that wasn't enough.
So, and where did you use these banners? Where did you put them about?
Well, first of all, they went up on the fence. I think I took up 1 or 2, then it was 6, and then it was 20. And
so that must have, visually, that must have been really beautiful, and also something for the media to focus on.
Oh, it was, yes. The background of women against the banners and the direct action. The banners, we were able to counter the vilification.
Because tell me a bit about the vilification.
Well, when I went to Greenham, I knew quite a bit about history, but I soon learnt a lot more as I went to the history books to see where we fitted in. And the suffragettes were bad mothers, they were lesbians, they were, they had all the same words used against the suffragettes we used against us.
Fascinating, so many years later, my goodness.
So I thought we had to do our own PR, and it had to be beautiful, and it had to be humorous, and it had to be aimed at women. Well,
that's so interesting compared to all the technologies we have available to us today. I mean,
it was slow.
I must have been.
And it was hard work. I mean, by the time you sewed a banner 5 feet by 7 feet, you had to have an enduring message, because if the message was ephemeral, you just didn't have time.
But you couldn't afford not to have that kind of banner, of course, that had to last. I see what you're saying.
And then women suggested we made postcards, and that was really good, because the banners had an airing on the fence occasionally, and they sometimes decorated a school hall for a Michael Foot meeting, or or some other meeting.
So they began to have other uses,
They
not
did.
just strictly tied to Greenhill,
Oh,
but then
yes.
being spread out to
They
other
went
causes and issues.
They went into theatres, they went into miners' halls, they went into churches.
Yeah. And do you think those what started out as Greenham banners maybe inspired a banner movement? Did you notice that?
Well, it resurrected the making of banners.
Resurrected,
And an interest in the banners of the past.
Yeah.
Because...
you did something with that, didn't you? Put together some kind of exhibition?
Well, I spent a lot of time at Greenham making banners. By the time we got to 1983, I was surprised how little women knew about their own history.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew about the suffragettes a little bit, but I wanted to know a lot more. I knew about the Cork Women's Guild, but I think women, our history is so disjointed, you know, like me, you become an activist when your kids are grown up and then you get older, you have a little window and you don't pass it on.
I'm there in that window at the moment, so I know what you mean.
And then it doesn't get passed on.
Yeah.
So I thought, I wanted to look at the history of women's struggles and women's political activism, so I went to the museums and the books and the libraries, and then I thought a magic idea came into my head. 100 years of women's banners.
Fabulous.
So I thought I would do an exhibition, but of course the museums would not let their banners go on the fence at Greenham, would they?
No,
I mean, that was never going to happen.
Yeah. So how did you work around that?
Well, there were Labour councillors during the Thatcher era, and I sort of put together this idea, 100 years of women's banners, sent it out round to local authorities, art galleries, museums, churches. So we got this core of banners. I had some historical banners permanently on loan, and we would turn up in like Bristol City Council, the council hall, with a camper van packed full of banners, and that enabled the local people, Greenpeace, CND, Labour Party, to bring their material in, and the museums to get out their historical material. So we were taking Greenham, we were setting it in context and taking it out into the country.
That was quite clever, that wasn't
Yes.
it? So the devious even.
Yes.
Well done, because when you were saying about a legacy and passing on memories, of course, what we have today are films and DVDs.
Yes.
And one thing Undercurrents does, as you know, is training community activists.
Yeah.
So whatever activism happens now, we can pass on that message through the films.
Yes.
And that's wonderful. But in your day, that wasn't really available, that technology. Now everyone's got a video camera, but you didn't have
And
that.
at Greenham, when some big event was coming up, it was word of mouth. Everyone said, I'll tell 10 more, and it was sort of word of mouth. We didn't have the email, but it worked surprisingly well.
Well, it's incredible what you achieved. I mean, and you know, it's referred to this day. It has become a real historic moment, isn't it?
And in a way, we did involve the community at these exhibitions. We involved the academic community through the museums. We involved the activists, and we also usually had a banner making workshop. So we had even the legal people were involved. So every time we went, we made a banner.
And where are all those banners now?
Well, some are in museums and some are in my attic.
How many would you say?
Plastic bags.
Really? How many do you think you have?
Oh, probably about 80 in my attic.
No
yes.
way. Wouldn't it be amazing? We need to come and film them.
Yes.
Because this talking to you now is so interesting, but it'd be lovely to just cut away to your banners, so people watching this can see what you meant.
When I say my banners, they're not really my banners. I was just articulating the moment in time, and I always involved other people. They wouldn't have happened without me, but they also wouldn't have happened without all the support and the mother-in-law who didn't agree, and the daughter who was. I would say, I'll give you a meal if you come and help me sew, and you know.
So. Before we came here and sat down, you spoke also about what's happening now with those banners. Isn't there something going on with the War Museum?
Oh yes, they had an outing about a year ago at Women's International League for Peace and Freedom executive meeting in London.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
The Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. They meet in different places all around the world.
Oh really?
Yeah,
right,
and the meeting was in London. So the banners went up there, and they had a very rundown school hall for their conference, and it was really drab. And they asked me to bring the banners up, and somehow you take ownership of that space, and you make it beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, it's all well having all the people there, but you need to set the scene, and the banners do that.
They must be transforming. Well, you know yourself, we borrowed your banners 2 years ago from Beyondtv. It was our first time in the Dylan Thomas Centre, and it was quite a municipal-looking space.
Yes.
In fact, somebody came up a little while ago and said how they remembered what a difference your banners
made.
made.
And they're going to be used again at the Imperial War Museum after
What's
Easter.
happening there then?
There's a Peace History Conference. They had one last year, and they're having another one, and we've got international speakers from Japan and America. And basically they're going to put some of the banners up in the Imperial War Museum.
Fantastic. So you'll be going into the attic to pull out some banners,
I will do, yes.
Oh, well, it's been really lovely talking to you. And festival isn't over yet. You know, there's a film coming on
Yes.
now at 2 o'clock. So will we go and get some food
We
and
will
have a
do.
cup before we go in?
Yeah.
Thanks very much.